Princess Arya stood in the grand hall of the Valkyrie Palace, looking down at the human diplomat who would become her husband. She was 7 feet tall with violet skin that seemed to glow under the palace lights. 4 powerful arms crossed over her armored chest as she studied the small creature before her. David Kim stood quietly, his hands clasped behind his back. He was only 5'10" and tall, with smooth brown skin and dark eyes that held a calm warmth. He wore simple earth clothing, nothing like the battle armor every warrior wore daily. To Arya he looked fragile, like something that might break if she held him too tightly. The marriage had been decided by councils and emperors, not by hearts. The Valkyrie Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds with their superior strength and warrior culture. When they reached Earth, they expected another easy victory. Instead, they found humans who talked and traded, who offered friendship. Instead of fighting, the human diplomats smiled and negotiated until the Valkyrie Emperor decided war would cost too much. Better to have peace, sealed with a marriage between worlds. Arya's father, Emperor Thern, placed a heavy hand on her shoulder. This human will be your husband. Treat him well. He represents peace with his entire planet. She nodded, studying David again. He smiled at her, a gentle expression that made him look even more harmless. She felt a strange protective feeling rise in her chest. This small, soft creature would be her responsibility now. The wedding ceremony was brief. David spoke his vows in perfect Vel. At court, his voice was soft but clear. When it was done, Arya took his hand carefully, afraid her strength might hurt him. His hand was warm and small in hers. The weeks that followed were strange for Arya. David moved into her quarters in the palace, bringing boxes of books and small items from Earth. He set up a little desk by the window where he worked on documents and reports. He never complained about anything, never demanded attention or special treatment. Do you need anything? Arya would ask him, still uncertain how to treat this unusual husband. I'm fine, thank you, David would reply with that same gentle smile. Maybe just some soil. I'd like to grow some plants from home. Arya arranged for soil and seeds to be brought from Earth. She watched as David created a small garden in their quarters, growing strange earth plants with red fruits he called strawberries. He spent hours tending them, humming soft songs as he worked. It fascinated her how much care he put into such simple things. The other Valkyrie at court whispered about Princess Arya's weak husband, General Marcus Vayath, a powerful warrior with eyes on the throne, laughed openly about it. Your princess plays house with a pet human, Vayath said to his officers, loud enough for others to hear. He gardens like a child while real warriors train for battle. Arya heard these comments but said nothing. Let them laugh. David was kind and intelligent. He didn't need to be a warrior. That was her job. She would protect him. David seemed unaware of the mockery, or perhaps he simply didn't care. He spent his days working with other Earth diplomats, setting up trade agreements and cultural exchanges. He learned everything he could about Valkyrie history and customs. He asked Arya hundreds of questions about her people, listening carefully to every answer. Why do Valkyrie value strength above all else? He asked one evening as they shared a meal. Arya considered the question. Because strength keeps us alive. The weak die quickly in this universe. Only the strong survive too. Protect others, David nodded. Thoughtfully, on Earth we believe. Something similar. But we think the strongest people are those who protect. The weak, not those who abandon them. That's what I said, Arya replied. Confused, not quite, David said with a small smile. You said the weak die. We say the strong protect them. It's a different way of thinking, Arya found herself enjoying these conversations. David made her see things differently. He was strange, yes, and definitely not a warrior, but he had a quick mind and a kind heart. She grew fond of him in a way she hadn't expected. One night Arya returned from military training exercises to find David in their garden. His hands were dirty from soil and he was carefully picking ripe strawberries. The sight made her feel something warm and protective. He looked so peaceful, so innocent in a palace full of warriors and schemes. Would you like one? David offered her a strawberry. Arya took it carefully, her large hand making the small fruit look tiny. She ate it and found it surprisingly sweet. It's good, I grew them for you, David said. Simply, I thought you might enjoy something from my world. Arya felt her heart's warm. This gentle human grew her gifts from his home planet. He thought of her happiness while warriors mocked him behind his back. She reached out and touched his face gently with one hand, being very careful not to scratch him with her sharp nails. Thank you, David, she said softly. He smiled that warm smile again, and Arya made a silent promise to herself. No harm would ever come to her husband. She would protect this kind, gentle soul from every danger. In the universe, he was hers now, and the Valkyrie protected what was theirs. David took her hand and held it, unafraid of her strength. Thank you for being patient with me. I know this isn't what you wanted. You're not so bad, Arya admitted. For human, they both laughed, and for the first time the marriage felt real. Arya looked at her small husband and felt content. He was harmless, yes, but that was okay. She was strong enough for both of them. She would keep him safe. If only she knew how wrong she was. Months passed in the Valkyrie palace and life settled into comfortable patterns. David continued his diplomatic work, while Arya trained with her military forces. They shared meals and conversations, growing closer despite their differences. David impressed many at court with his intelligence and manners. He learned their customs quickly and showed genuine interest in Valkyrie culture. Some of the younger nobles began to respect the human, though the older warriors still saw him as weak. General Marcus Vaoth's contempt only grew stronger. He watched Princess Arya laugh at something David said during a state dinner, and his jaw tightened with anger. The princess, one of their greatest warriors, was becoming soft. She spent time with that fragile human instead of focusing on military matters. It was disgraceful. The emperor grows old, V said to his trusted officers in private, and his daughter grows weak with her human pet. The empire needs strong leadership, not this foolishness. His officers nodded. Many agreed that the alliance with Earth was a mistake. Humans were too weak, too soft. They should have been conquered, not befriended. David knew about the whispers and hostile looks, but he never mentioned it to Arya. He continued his work, always polite, always calm. He established Earth's embassy in the capital city and helped dozens of human families move to Valkyrie worlds for trade and cultural exchange. Arya assigned royal guards to follow David everywhere for your protection, she explained. I don't think I need guards, David said gently. I insist, Arya replied firmly. This palace can be dangerous for someone who doesn't know our ways. David didn't argue. He thanked her and accepted the guards who followed him at a respectful distance. The guards found their job boring. Human diplomat just went to meetings, worked at his desk, and tended his garden. He never did anything dangerous or interesting. One afternoon, Arya found David sitting in their quarters, reading a book of earth poetry. She sat beside him and he read some verses aloud. The words were strange but beautiful, talking about love and loss and hope. Do all humans think this much about feelings? Arya asked. Most of us. Yes, David replied. We believe emotions make us strong, not weak. Emotions distract warriors from battle, Arya said, repeating what she'd been taught since childhood. Maybe, David agreed. But they also give warriors something to fight for. Arya thought about this. She fought for the empire, for honor, for victory, but lately she realized she fought for David too. She wanted to keep him safe, to protect his gentle nature from the harsh universe. Was that emotion making her weak or strong? She didn't have an answer. David continued reading, his voice soft in the quiet room. Arya leaned back and closed her eyes, listening. She felt peaceful here, away from the demands of court and military duties. David made a good partner. Even if he couldn't fight, he made her feel calm in ways battle never could. Arya, David's voice interrupted her thoughts. Yes, if something dangerous happened, what would you want me to do? The question surprised her. Hide and let the guards protect you. Why do you ask? David was quiet for a moment. Just curious. I like to be prepared. There's nothing to prepare for, Arya assured him. I'll always protect you. That's my job as your wife and as a warrior. David smiled and nodded. Something in his eyes seemed distant, thoughtful. Arya didn't notice. She was too confident in her ability to keep him safe. That evening they attended a royal banquet. Arya wore her formal armor, polished and decorated with medals from her military victories. David wore earth clothing, simple but elegant. They sat at the high table. Beside the emperor, General Vayoth sat nearby, drinking heavily and growing louder. As the night went on, he made comments about soft allies and weak leadership that everyone could hear. Emperor frowned but said nothing, unwilling to punish his best general without clear cause. David remained calm throughout the dinner, eating quietly and speaking only when spoken to. But Arya noticed his eyes tracking Vayoth's movements, watching the general's guards, noting who laughed at Vayoth's jokes. Her husband seemed to be memorizing everything. Are you all right? She whispered to him. Fine, David assured her with a smile, just observing. After the banquet, they returned to their quarters. Arya removed her armor, while David changed into sleeping clothes. He went to check on his garden before bed, as he did every night. Arya watched him from the doorway, her small, gentle husband watering earth plants under alien stars. He hummed that soft song again, completely at peace. She felt that protective warmth flood through her again. I love you. David turned, water can still in his hands. His face broke into a wide smile. They were simple words, but they felt important, real. Arya crossed the room and pulled him into a careful hug. Mindful of her strength, David hugged Her back, his head barely reaching her shoulder. I'll always keep you safe. Ariel promised. I know. David replied softly. What Arya didn't know was that David had been sending regular reports to Earth's military command. He documented the palace layout, security systems, political tensions, and potential threats. Every night he encrypted messages and sent them through hidden channels, not because he was a spy, but because he was a soldier doing his job. Earth didn't send helpless diplomats to alien empires. They sent their best people, trained for any situation. David's gentle nature was real, but it wasn't the whole truth. He genuinely loved Arya and wanted peace between their worlds, but he was also prepared for war if peace failed. The coup began at dawn during the Festival of Warriors, when the palace was full of celebration. General Marcus Vaoth had planned perfectly, choosing a moment when guards were scattered and everyone was distracted by ceremonies. Explosions rocked the palace. V's loyal soldiers attacked from inside, having infiltrated key positions over months. They struck fast and hard, killing loyal guards before alarms could sound. The goal was simple: kill the Emperor, capture Princess Arya, and seize the throne. Emperor Thern died the first minutes, cut down by traitors. In his own throne room, Arya heard her father's death announced over the palace communications and screamed in rage. She grabbed her weapons and ran toward the throne room, her forearms wielding energy blades that glowed white hot. David was separated from her in the chaos. Royal guards tried to protect him, but they were overwhelmed by rebel soldiers. David fought to reach Arya, but the crowd of panicking nobles and fighting warriors blocked every path. Secure the human, someone shouted. Vaoth wants him alive. Hands grabbed David from multiple directions. He struggled but was outnumbered. They dragged him away from the main fighting down into the palace. Detention levels. He didn't fight too hard, already calculating his next moves. Before they took his communication device, David managed to send one encrypted message to coordinates in deep space. 3 words: Red Dawn Rising. Red Dawn Rising. Red Dawn. Red Dawn Rising. Earth 6 fleet stationed at the border of Valkyrie space received the message. Admiral Lisa Park read it and immediately ordered battle stations full speed to the Valkyrie home world. All ships prepare for combat operations. Ma'am, that will be seen as an act of war, her second officer warned. Our diplomat just sent the emergency code, Park replied grimly. There's already a war, we're just late to it. In the palace, Arya fought like a demon, her blades cut through traitor soldiers with terrible efficiency. She was magnificent in battle, every movement precise and deadly, but there were too many enemies. They had planned too well. Energy nets finally brought her down, tangling her forearms and legs. She struggled and screamed threats, but they dragged her away. Dozens of rebel soldiers surrounded her, weapons pointed at her head. They threw her into a detention cell in the lowest level of the palace. The energy field snapped on, trapping her inside. Arya immediately tested it, throwing her full strength against the barrier. It held firm. Arya, she turned and saw David in the cell across from hers. Relief flooded through her, followed immediately by guilt. He was here because of her, trapped in this rebellion, in danger he never should have faced. David, I'm sorry, she said, gripping the energy barrier. I should Have seen this coming, I should have. Protected you, more. More, it's not your fault, David replied. Calmly, he looked surprisingly composed. For someone who'd just been captured by rebel forces, are you hurt? No, you. I'm fine, Arya studied him, he was checking the cell walls, looking at the guards outside, examining the energy field controls. What are you doing? Looking for weaknesses, David said. Simply there aren't any. These cells are designed to hold Valkyrie warriors. They'll hold a human easily, Arya felt. Despair creeping in. Her father was dead, she was captured, and her gentle husband would die because of her. Political enemies, maybe, David said. Quietly, he sat down on the cell bench. Looking thoughtful, guards came and went, but none spoke to the prisoners. Hours passed. Arya tried everything to break free, but the energy field was too strong. She watched David, who seemed almost calm. How could he be so peaceful? At a time like this, are you afraid? She asked him. David looked up. Yes, but being afraid doesn't help us escape. We're not escaping, Arya said bitterly. V will execute us publicly to legitimize his rule. That's how these things work. Probably, David agreed. What do you know about the detention level layout, guard rotations, security systems? Arya answered his questions absently, not really paying attention. She was planning how to die with honor, how to protect David until the last moment. She didn't notice how carefully David listened to every detail, how his eyes tracked guard movements, how he counted seconds between patrols. Finally, heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. General Marcus Vayath appeared. Flanked by armed guards, he stood before Arya's cell, smiling triumphantly. Princess, he said mockingly, or should I say former princess traitor? Arya spat. When I get out of here, I'll tear you apart. You won't get out, V replied. Tomorrow you and your pet human will die. Publicly, the Empire will see that the weak royal line has ended. A new era begins. Essa said desperately, she's still free. The military will rally to her. V's smile widened. About your sister, my forces found her hideout an hour ago. By now they've captured her. He leaned closer to the energy barrier. I'm going to make her death special, public torture broadcast across the Empire. It will break the Resistance's spirit. People will understand what happens to those who oppose me. Arya threw herself at the barrier again, screaming threats. Vayath laughed at her rage, enjoying her helplessness. Then David spoke. His voice was different now, cold and flat. Touch Emma and I will end you and everyone you love. The corridor went silent. Everyone turned to look at the small human in his cell. VTH stared in disbelief, then burst out laughing. Human makes threats. How adorable. Va walked to David's cell. What will you do, little man? Guard me to death. He raised his hand to strike David through the barrier, intending to punish this insolent, but something in David's eyes made him pause. The warmth was gone, replaced by something cold and calculating. The human stood perfectly still, his breathing controlled, his stance balanced. For just a moment, Vayath felt uncertain, then he shook it off and swung his hand at the barrier to mock the human. Pathetic, sir, we should go, one of his guards said nervously. The execution is prepared for tomorrow. Vayath nodded and turned to leave. As he walked away, he called back, enjoy your last night alive, princess, and don't worry about your sister. I'll make sure her death is Memorable, the guards followed him out. Leaving the prisoners alone again, Arya collapsed against the wall of her cell. Tears streaming down her face, Emma, her baby sister, in the hands of that monster. There was nothing she could do. Nothing. Arya, David said quietly. She looked up at him through her tears. Emma is safe, David said with absolute certainty. She's not in any hideout. She's on Earth. Transport ship Perseus, which left orbit 6 hours ago. My people evacuated her. When the coup started, Arya stared. What? How do you V is lying to break? You, David continued. His voice was still cold, still controlled. It won't work because Emma is safe. He paused. But he made a mistake tonight. What mistake? David smiled, but it wasn't his gentle smile. This smile was sharp and dangerous. He threatened someone I love. Now I'm going to kill him. David stood and approached his cell barrier. Examining it closely, Arya watched in confusion as her husband studied the energy field with focused intensity. David, what are you doing working? He replied absently. He turned his attention to the guards standing outside their cells, a young Valkyrie soldier who looked bored. Excuse me, David called out politely. Could I trouble you for some water? The guard looked over, surprised. What water? I'm very thirsty. Would you mind? David smiled. That gentle smile, looking harmless and pathetic. The guard hesitated, then shrugged. What harm could the weak human do? He walked over to a water station near the cells and filled a container. As he approached David's cell to pass the water through the barrier's feeding slot, David moved. It happened so fast that Arya barely saw it. David's hand shot through the feeding slot and grabbed the guard's wrist. He twisted hard, pulling the guard's face directly into the energy barrier. The guard screamed as electricity coursed through his body. David held him there for exactly 3 seconds, then released him. The guard collapsed unconscious. David calmly reached through the slot, pulled the guard's stun baton from his belt, and used it to short-circuit his cells. Control panel, the energy field flickered and died. Arya's mouth hung open in shock. How did you? David stepped out of his cell and moved to her control panel. Within seconds, her barrier shut down too. He tossed her one of the guard's weapons. We need to move fast, David said, his voice crisp and efficient. There are 6 guards on this level, 2 more at the main elevator, and security drones patrolling the corridors above. We have approximately 4 minutes before they notice the camera feeds from this area went dark. Camera feeds? Arya asked. Still stunned, David pointed to small devices stuck to the ceiling. I've been placing signal jammers every time they moved me. They've been watching static for the past hour. Arya stared at her husband. This wasn't the gentle man who grew strawberries. This was someone else entirely. Who are you? I'm your husband, David replied, checking the unconscious guards' weapons. But I'm also a soldier. Earth doesn't send unarmed diplomats to potentially hostile territories. He looked up at her. We can talk about it later. Right now we need to reach the palace armory and get you proper weapons. The armory is 15 levels up, past hundreds of rebel soldiers. Arya said, I know. I've memorized the entire palace layout. David moved to the corridor entrance and peered around the corner. Follow my lead. Stay close. Don't hesitate when I tell you to move. Before Arya could respond, David stepped into the corridor and walked calmly toward 2 guards stationed at the corridor intersection. Arya followed, uncertain what to do. The guards saw David approaching and raised their weapons. Stop right there. David kept walking, his hands visible and empty. Please, I escaped my cell. I need help. The princess is trying to kill me. The guards exchanged confused looks. The human was running toward them for protection from his own wife. It was the last mistake they made. David closed the distance rapidly, and suddenly he wasn't a scared diplomat anymore. He moved with brutal precision, striking nerve clusters and joint points that Arya hadn't even known humans could reach. Both guards went down in seconds, unconscious before they hit the floor. Arya rushed forward. David, how military training. 4 years special forces before diplomatic corps. David collected the guards' weapons and handed 2 to Arya. I tried to tell you last month, but you kept saying I didn't need to know how to fight. They moved through the detention level quickly. David navigated like he'd lived there for years, knowing every turn and corridor. When they encountered more guards, he fought with a style Arya had never seen. No wasted movement. Every strike targeting specific points. On Valkyrie anatomy, he was scary. Her gentle, kind husband was absolutely terrifying in combat. They reached in elevator, but David stopped her from calling it trapped. They'll ambush us. When the doors open, he pointed to a maintenance shaft. This way, that shaft goes up 40 levels. Arya protested. Then we better start climbing. They clear's throat climbed. Arya's superior strength helped, but David kept pace. Despite being smaller and weaker, his endurance was remarkable. They climbed for what felt like forever, finally emerging into a service corridor. The palace armory. How did you know about this shaft? Arya asked, breathing hard. I've been mapping escape routes since week 2 of living here, David replied. He wasn't even breathing heavily, just in case. In case of what? In case someone staged a coup and captured us. David checked around a corner. The armory is down this hall, but there are at least 20 guards between us and it. 20 guards. Arya gripped her weapons. We need a plan. Arya, I have one. David pulled out a small device from his pocket. I've been building this from spare parts for 3 months. It's a signal broadcaster. Watch. He activated the device. Immediately, alarm klaxons started blaring throughout the palace. Emergency lights flashed. Recorded voice announced a reactor breach in the East Wing, ordering all personnel to evacuate. There's no reactor breach, David explained as guards rushed past their hiding spot, running toward the non-existent emergency. But they don't know that. We have maybe 5 minutes of confusion. They ran for the armory while guards rushed the wrong direction. The armory entrance was sealed, but Arya used her strength to tear the door open. Inside were rows of advanced weapons and armor. Arya quickly equipped herself with proper combat gear, 4 energy rifles, 1 for each hand, heavy armor plates, ammunition packs. She looked like the warrior princess she was, not a captured prisoner. David took lighter equipment, 2 compact pistols, a knife, and a communication headset. He typed something into the armory's computer system. What are you doing? Arya asked, calling for backup. David's fingers flew over the controls. Earth's 6th Fleet received my distress signal before I was captured. They've been waiting at the border for my next signal. He hit a final button. They're jumping into orbit right now. Your fleet is coming here. That's an act of war. There's already a war. I'm just making sure we win it. David pulled up a tactical display showing the palace. Vaoth has most of his forces in the throne room and main courtyards. He's preparing for your public execution. He doesn't know we've escaped yet. Arya looked at the display, her tactical mind already working. If we hit them from behind while they're concentrated, we can break his command structure. David pointed to several locations. Earth Marines are already dropping onto the palace roof. They'll provide suppressing fire and secure escape routes, but we need to take out Vaoth before he rallies his forces. You planned all this. I hoped I wouldn't need to, David said quietly. His warm eyes met hers. I really wanted peace, but I'm a soldier first, and soldiers plan for worst cases. Arya felt like she was seeing David for the first time. This was her husband, but also someone she'd completely misunderstood. He'd been preparing for war while she thought he was helpless. I underestimated you, she said softly. You saw what you wanted to see, David replied without anger. I didn't correct you because it was useful. Enemies underestimating me is an advantage. He handed her a communication earpiece. Earth Marines are on this channel. They'll coordinate with us. Static crackled, then a voice came through. Ground Team 1 to Diplomat Kim, we're in position on the roof. Ready for your signal. David pressed his earpiece. Acknowledged. Ground Team. Princess Arya and I are moving toward the throne room. Stand by for my mark. He looked at Arya. Ready to take back your throne. Ready. Ready to take back your throne. Arya activated her weapons, all four energy rifles charging with a hum. More than ready. Money. They moved through the palace like a storm. David's intimate knowledge of the layout gave them every advantage. They avoided patrols, used secret passages, and struck when enemies were distracted. When they had to fight, they were devastating together. Arya provided overwhelming firepower while David targeted weak points with precision. They complemented each other perfectly. Her strength and his speed working in harmony. They reached the outer halls of the throne room. Ahead they could hear Vaoth addressing his gathered forces, declaring himself the new emperor. The traitor was giving a victory speech, while his prisoners were supposed to be locked safely away. He has about 300 soldiers in there, David said, checking his tactical display. Earth Marines can provide aerial support through the ceiling skylights, but we need to get inside first. I'll make us an entrance, Arya said grimly. Wait. David pointed to his display. There's someone else inside. Small thermal signature separate from the main group, hidden in the side chamber. Arya looked, and her heart skipped. That's Emma's signature pattern. Vas has her after all, David said quietly. Cold rage filled Arya. Her sister was in. They're probably minutes from execution. Change of plans. We go in loud and fast. I'll draw their fire. You get Emma out. Negative, David said firmly. If we go in without a plan, Emma dies in the crossfire. He studied the display intently. But if we create a diversion on the east side, Vaoth's guards will turn that direction. I can enter through the service entrance here, extract Emma, and get her to safety. Then you make your grand entrance from the main doors. That puts you in more danger. I'm trained for this, Arya. David met her eyes. Trust me, Arya wanted to argue, but she saw the cold certainty in his face. This was what David did. This was who he really was under the gentle exterior. Fine, she agreed. But if you die, I'll never forgive you. David smiled, and for a moment his warmth returned. I'll try to avoid that. He pressed his earpiece. Ground Team 1, target the eastern guard towers on my mark. Maximum noise and flash. I need all eyes looking up. He turned to Arya. Give me 3 minutes to reach the service entrance. When the explosions start, wait 30 seconds, then hit the main doors. Understood. David squeezed her hand once, then disappeared into the shadows. Arya watched him go, her heart's pounding. How had she ever thought this man was harmless? David moved through the palace shadows like a ghost. The service entrance to the throne room was guarded by 2 soldiers, but they were watching the main approach, not expecting threats from behind. David dropped both guards with precise strikes before they could raise alarm. He slipped through the entrance into the side chamber. Princess Emma was there, locked in an energy cage, surrounded by 4 guards. She was younger than Arya, only 15 years old, with bright violet skin and terrified eyes. David pressed his earpiece. Ground Team 1, execute diversion now. Explosions rocked the eastern side of the palace. The massive booms shook the throne room, and David heard shouts of alarm. The guards around Emma's cave rushed toward the main chamber to investigate. David waited until they were gone, then approached Emma's cage. She saw him and her eyes widened. David, she whispered. Stay quiet, he mouthed. He pulled out a small device and attached it to the cage's control panel. It took 15 seconds to bypass the encryption, longer than he wanted, but the system was sophisticated. The cage deactivated. Emma stumbled out, and David caught her. Can you run? She nodded. Where's Arya? About to make an entrance. Come on. They moved toward the exit, but voices approached from the corridor. More guards responding to the diversion. David pulled Emma into a storage alcove and pressed a finger to his lips. 4 guards ran past, weapons ready. David waited until they passed, then continued toward the exit with Emma. They were almost free when a voice stopped them. Cold. Well, the human rat has found the little princess. General Marcus Vayoth stepped from a side entrance, blocking their path. He held an energy rifle pointed directly at Emma. 6 guards flanked him. David positioned himself between Vayoth and Emma. Let her go. Your fight is with me and Arya, not with a child. My fight is with anyone who stands against the Empire's future, Vayoth replied, including soft humans who think they can play soldier. He looked past David to Emma. You were bait, girl. I knew the human would try to rescue you. So predictable. David's mind raced. 7 enemies, one of them a combat expert. Emma behind him, unable to fight. No good options. You're going to die here, Vayoth continued, and then I'll use the girl to break Arya. By tomorrow, the old royal line will be history. David's hand moved to his weapons, but Vayoth's rifle tracked him. Don't try it. You're fast, I'll admit, but you can't outdraw 7 guns. You're right, David agreed. Then he smiled, that cold, dangerous smile. But I don't need to. But he pressed his earpiece. Ground Team 1, fire mission. Target my location. Danger close. Both's eyes widened. You're bluffing. You D2, maybe, David said calmly, but you'll definitely die and Emma will survive. That's good Enough. For 3 seconds nothing happened. Then the skylight above exploded inward. Earth Marines dropped through on rappel. Lines, weapons blazing. The throne room erupted into chaos. Vayoth's guards tried to respond but were caught in crossfire. From above, David used the confusion to tackle Emma to the ground, shielding her with his body as energy bolts scorched the air above them. The main throne room doors exploded off their hinges. Princess Arya stormed through, all 4 of her energy rifles firing simultaneously. She was magnificent and terrible, a warrior goddess unleashing fury on those who threatened her family. Vayoth, Arya's voice thundered through the chamber. Face me, coward. Vayoth's forces tried to rally, but they were caught between Arya's frontal assault and the Earth Marines' aerial attack. Carefully staged victory ceremony became a battlefield. David kept Emma pinned safely while the fight raged. He watched Arya cut through rebel soldiers with brutal efficiency. She was holding back before he realized this was her true strength, unleashed. Without restraint, Vayoth tried to retreat, but Arya cut off his escape. They faced each other in the center of the throne room, surrounded by fighting. Your coup is over, Arya said, her 4 weapons trained on him. It's not over until you're dead, Vayoth snarled. He raised his weapon. David, Arya called out. Get Emma to safety. David pulled Emma to her feet and ran for the exit. Earth Marines provided covering fire, keeping rebel soldiers away from them. They reached the corridor and kept running. Behind them, the sounds of battle continued. David heard Arya's battle cry and the distinct sound of energy weapons firing. He wanted to go back and help her, but Emma was his priority now. Get her safe first, then return to the fight. They reached the palace entrance where Earth Marines had established a defensive perimeter. An officer approached. Diplomat Kim, the princess is secure. Yes, get her to the extraction point. David handed Emma to 2 Marines. He looked at the young princess. Your sister is fighting for you. Stay safe. Emma grabbed his arm. David, don't let her die. I won't. David promised. Then he turned and ran back into the palace. The throne room was chaos when he returned. Most of Vayoth's forces had surrendered or fled, but the general himself still fought. He and Arya circled each other, both wounded, but neither willing to back down. David raised his weapon, but couldn't get a clear shot. They moved too fast and he might hit Arya. He needed a different approach. He circled around using the throne room's columns for cover. Vayoth was focused entirely on Arya, not watching his surroundings. Classic mistake, tunnel vision. In combat, David waited for his moment. When Vayoth lunged at Arya, exposing his back, David fired 3 precise shots. They hit Vayoth's armor joints, causing him to stumble. Arya didn't hesitate. Her blade swept across, disarming Vayoth and sending him crashing to the floor. Yeah, she commanded. Vayoth laughed bitterly. Kill me. I won't beg. I should, Arya agreed. But she looked up at David, who watched from across the room. Something passed between them, an understanding. But my husband believes in mercy, Ariel continued, and I'm trying to learn from him. She gestured to Earth Marines. Take him into custody. He'll face trial for his crimes. As Marines secured Vayoth, Arya crossed the throne room to David. They stood facing each other, both bloody and exhausted. Emma, Arya asked. Safe. Marines got her to the extraction point. Arya sagged with relief, then she looked at her husband. She really looked at him. You saved her. You saved all of us. We saved each other. David corrected gently. That's what partners do. Arya reached out and touched his face with one hand. I'm sorry I underestimated you. I'm sorry I didn't tell you the truth, David replied. I was trying to protect our peace, but I should have trusted you with who I really am. Who are you, David? David smiled, his warmth returning. I'm a soldier who prefers gardening, warrior who chooses diplomacy, someone who loves you enough to fight when there's no other choice. Arya pulled him into a careful hug. That's all I needed to know. Around them, Earth Marines and loyal Valkyrie forces worked together to secure the palace. Admiral Park's fleet held orbit, but no shots were fired. The coup was over, ended by cooperation between two worlds instead of conquest. Princess Emma returned an hour later, running to her sister and brother-in-law. She hugged them both tightly. You came for me? Of course we did, Arya said, holding her sister close. We're family. Emma looked at David with new respect. You're scary when you fight. Only when I need to be, David assured her. Most of the time I'm still the guy who grows strawberries. The next few days were exhausting. Arya was crowned empress with full ceremony, the first female to rule the Valkyrie Empire alone. She immediately announced reforms, starting with a formal military alliance with Earth. Let no one mistake human kindness for weakness again, Empress Arya declared to the assembled court. Earth is our equal partner and humans are warriors when they choose to be. We are stronger together. The Valkyrie nobles who once mocked David now looked at him with wary respect. Word had spread about how the harmless diplomat had fought through the palace, rescued the princess, and coordinated with Earth's military. He was no longer dismissed as a curiosity. David stood beside his wife during her coronation, wearing formal Earth diplomatic attire. When it was over, they returned to their quarters. Finally alone. What happens now? Arya asked, removing her crown carefully. Now we figure out how to rule an empire together, David replied. You handle the military and political stuff. I'll handle the diplomacy and cultural exchanges. Will make it work. And what about your military duties? I'm still assigned as Earth's ambassador to the Valkyrie Empire, David explained. But I'm also your husband first. Earth understands that. Arya sat beside him, taking his hand. I really am sorry. I saw you as something to protect instead of someone who could protect himself. You weren't entirely wrong, David admitted. I did need protection. Sometimes this isn't my culture or my home, but we should protect each other, not have one of us do all the protecting. Deal, Arya agreed. She looked at their joined hands, her massive one holding his smaller one. Do you still want to grow your garden? Arya, do you still want to grow your garden? David smiled. Always. Being a warrior doesn't mean I can't also be a gardener. That's the point, isn't it? We contain multitudes. Multitudes, Arya repeated slowly. I'm still learning about humans. You're more complicated than I thought. So are you. David pointed out. You're a warrior, but also a daughter, a sister, a wife, and now an empress. You're not just one thing either. Arya leaned against him, feeling peaceful despite everything they'd been through. We're going to be okay, aren't we? Yes, David said with certainty, we will. That night they sat together in their garden. David tended his strawberry plants while Arya watched the stars. The palace was being rebuilt. The empire was stabilizing. Two worlds were learning to work together, and a warrior princess had finally understood that the most dangerous humans are the ones who choose to be gentle, because when they stop choosing gentleness, nothing holds them back. David offered Arya a fresh strawberry. She took it and smiled. In the end, they were partners, different but equal, warrior and diplomat, strength and mercy. Together they would change the galaxy.